Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Government Business Today. I'm Hughes, along with the Wall Street Hall of Famer, Robert Lendrim. Robert always shakes his head when I say that, but you know
it's like why do you go down this path? I haven't been on Wall Street in 8 years.
It's 8 long years.
That's
Look,
dog
you know
years.
how many of our listeners would never get the opportunity to have an audience with somebody with your background?
Oh, man, you're too kind.
I'm not going to let you live it down, man. I'm just not.
All right.
No, so anyway, guys, listen, we've got some great information to cover for you today.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a really great week, Robert and I, and so we're going to share some of that information with you. And I want to put out there at the top of our live cast today that we're going to be changing platforms here really, really soon so that you guys we can make it easier for you guys to be able to tune in each week. We're still going to be on the same time. So Thursdays at noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. And but we're going to be emailing each of you if you're already on our list, and I know many of you are. We're going to email you the new links so that you'll be able to join us. But what we're going to be doing, which is really kind of cool, we're going to actually simulcast over social media. So when we do these things live, you'll be able to actually join us live just like you do now. But we'll be able to have the capacity to have more guests on. And so we're really happy to be able to bring you better content, more meaningful and relevant information from the industry insiders and experts that we want to bring to you here on Government Business Today. So I'm really happy to let you guys know that. So I'm telling you all that because I want you guys to be on the lookout for this email directing you to our new platform. And we're going to be coming on here next week. So we're going to get that link out to you literally before the end of this week. So that sounds like tomorrow or Saturday. But nonetheless, we're going to get that out to you guys early enough for you to update your links and make sure you bookmark these in your browsers and so on so you can join us as we go forward. So our little show is growing. How cool is that? So we're really excited about that.
Hey, Irv, when you say so, it's LinkedIn and Facebook, or just LinkedIn, or just also on the website?
Social media platforms that we're going to start simulcasting on is going to be Facebook. Mm-hmm. We're going on LinkedIn. We're going to be on Twitter. And if we can get the good folks at YouTube to give us our access, we'll also simulcast on YouTube. So we'll be on 4 platforms just right out of the gate.
Wow, that's terrific.
All right.
Really terrific.
So super. So really, hey, let's jump in, Robert. So how was your week, man? What'd you get into?
It was good. You know, I've got like my little planner here, and I wrote down a fun quote or a quotation by Ralph Waldo Emerson that he writes: "All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better." And, it's just kind of been words that I've been trying to live by just over the last week or so. But, I did the Northeastern Minority Business Council, and we actually had a follow-up. So a big shout out to Peter Hurst and Michael Granger, Harold Blackwell for, supporting us on that. It's the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. Had some really good calls with them. And just had a pre-call with our guest for next week, Monty, who's down in Atlanta. So it's just been busy. It's just been getting the word out, talking about what we're doing. Personally, I'm in the thick of rugby tournaments and proms and high school graduations. So it's all good. Life is good.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what, man, it sounds like you had a great week. Certainly I had a great week too.
Yeah.
We're working on a lot of things to bring opportunities to government contractors, specifically growth opportunities. And as some of you guys know, if you've been, in our audience or listening to us live in studio, one of the things that is that, we're supporting the GSA's Commercial Platforms Initiative. And so we're encouraging more and more government contractors who may be on the service side to consider adding a related product to their business model so that they can actually play sort of on both sides, both the product side and the service side, because of course more and more companies are needed to supply products or participate in the supply chain in government business. And so that's one of the things that we're a great promoter of here at Government Business Today.
Yeah, Nerv, I saw that email you sent over to our partners over at Amazon as far as like listing all of the commodities and everything that, we should just remind viewers that, it's like currently what, 19 commodities or finished goods, building out that catalog through that partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think to your point, we want to make sure that we convey to folks that who are in the services business. And of course, we know that most government contractors are certainly, especially if they're minorities, they are operating on the service side.
Yeah.
But to your point, guys, we've carved out the top 18 or so product categories that government agencies buy and they purchase over and over again, really on a regular basis. Think of these almost as consumable types of products of groups of finished goods. And so having said that, one of the things that is really, really important under this GSA initiative is that if you're already a government contractor and you're providing services or you have experience providing services, one of the things we're doing is saying, hey, let us talk with you about adding a related product or a product that perhaps you've already come in contact with through your service business that now you could supply that particular product. I'm always thinking about those folks who are, for example, in IT services businesses where they are providing IT services, where they're literally providing professionals to government agencies in the area of IT. Well, if you're in the IT space, guess what? One of the biggest categories is PC peripherals and software. Well, these are things that you as a business owner, you're already oriented. You already know what those particular products are. You probably already know what some of the best and brightest innovations are. And so while you might be providing services today, we're simply saying that one of the options is for you to add, we're not saying replace, we're saying add a particular product line to your services so that now you don't have to pass up those procurement opportunities that might be to supply, PC peripherals. It could be cables, it could be mice, it could be monitors, keyboards, you name it. So it's the opportunities out there.
Yeah, you're spot on, Irv. I mean, it's like one of the conversations that we had with the lady that's the Air Force government contractor woman, Woesby, and an MBE. She's a contractor up in Massachusetts, and this is actually a whole new one that their friends from the Greater New England Minority Supplier Council delivered to us, and she's a regular contractor services where she doesn't get paid for maybe 4, 6, maybe 20 weeks, but yet talking to her about doing the products, to your point, she's already sourcing the products for her own business, but now because she's already certified, she can then do those products and sell for a profit to diversify and expand what she's already doing. It's just stuff works. It works.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's really, guys, about capturing spend. And I think I'm going to do a better job about conveying that to some of the people that we talk to, or certainly our audience here on Government Business Today, is that positioning your business to capture spending that is already going on. A lot of times we find that small businesses are looking to be really reactive and waiting for bids to come out and this sort of thing, or they're doing all the work to get on GSA schedule, or they're trying to use some of the other federal, state, and local vehicles to get in front of spending or get in front of opportunities. But the truth is, we're talking about simple e-commerce where you would literally have the opportunity to offer products through the GSA Commercial Platforms Initiative, and buyers would be able to access it. And so there are a few steps involved, I'll say that. So I don't want to convey that it's just oh, it's a cakewalk, because it's not. It's government contracting. And if you have any experience with government contracting, you know it's anything short of a cakewalk. So having said that, though, it is certainly worth going through all of the steps to get that set up and take advantage of those opportunities, those growth opportunities.
But then they got to finance it. And they got to finance it. So, you know what, speaking of finance, and because, we want to make sure that we kind of, get into this, but do you want to maybe talk a little bit about the survey, just to kind of, bring people up to speed as far as the survey that we did and results?
Yeah. So one of the things I was hoping that we get to touch on, and we might do this first, Robert, is that, the survey, each year, a survey comes out about small businesses across the United States. And these surveys are really, really credible because they come from credible sources, like our Federal Reserve, for example. Yeah. And so when we look at these surveys, what they do, guys, is they actually survey small businesses to understand how small businesses are actually getting access to capital, how they're using capital, how they apply for capital, what their expectation is of even getting all the capital that they may have requested. And so it's really interesting data. And so, Robert, if it's okay, I know you may have a copy of that report, but what are some of the things that perhaps jumped out at you when you looked at that report?
Well, it's funny you should say, because whenever I think of a survey, especially for small businesses operate in a cocoon, and all too often. And the thing I like about, reading some of these small business surveys is that it's almost like a reality check of, okay, am I, as a small business, where do I post up against everybody else? Is it from, the challenge of the labor shortage, or is it the supply chain issues? Or do I have to worry, if I'm in trucking company, about diesel, prices skyrocketing? And, am I alone in this journey, or am I suffering from the same things that everybody else is as well? So I don't want to say it's misery loves company, but it's kind of a nice way to say, okay, I'm not in this alone. Whereas, as a small business, you are, but you're not. But some of the things that I saw from this was, the huge amount of, basically small businesses that, did not have access to capital, but those that did, how many of them, really were having trouble getting it. In fact, here's 74% of firms have outstanding debt, which is down from 80%. 6 in 10 firms have $100,000 or less in outstanding debt. And again, remember, this is for small businesses. 36% of firms sought financing in the prior 12 months. This is from 2021. Most of the operating expenses, what's interesting is that they've been trying to, small businesses have been financing their operating expenses. And I may have spoken about this on a previous podcast. But, it's, some of the reasons why they would get discouraged to not be able to get financing is weak business financials, lender requirements are too strict. Lenders don't approve financing for the industry, missing documentation, just all sorts of reasons. And that was for the general, small business. And the survey that we did was really focused more on government contractors. So with that, I'm going to kind of let you kind of take over from there.
Yeah, so that's really good information, Robert, and I appreciate you sharing that with our audience, because it's really, to your point, important that we as small business owners know that you're not alone, okay? The entire industry has just really inherent or intrinsic barriers that have to be overcome.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you talked about one of the points that cause discouragement, frankly, is financials, right? I always say in finance, the facts don't count. All that counts is what you can prove.
Yeah. Sure.
So the fact is, you may very well be running a great business, but without really good, strong financials, well, you can't prove that you're doing that. And so while it may be a fact that you're running a good business, without the proper documentation and financials, you can't prove it. And the minute you can't prove it, it doesn't matter whether it is or it is not a fact.
Well, it's kind of like what Andrew Frazier from last week was talking about. Really know your numbers. And the one thing, in fact, I've even stolen this phrase from him about when he talks with clients about, okay, are you working in your business or are you working on your business?
Yeah.
And I've actually used that phrase a number of times this past week. So, Andrew, thank you for letting me borrow that phrase. But it's super true. I mean, it's like you need to understand, what is revenues, what are profits, what's your cost of goods sold. I mean, you need to understand these things to really continue to grow and expand on your business.
Yeah, and to your point, we touched on this in an earlier podcast that we did, talking about getting hung up in the cost of capital.
Yeah.
And it kind of dovetails into that very subject. So that's one of the things, too, that I found that's, for whatever reason, a deterrent to a lot of people getting access to the capital and credit, because the first thing they ask is, well, how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Well, compared to what? If it's like if I've got two tomatoes, I'm sorry for being in Texas, but if I got two tomatoes, one of them is $1 and one of them is 25 cents, but the one that's 25 cents is small and withered, and the one that's $1 is big and ripe and beautiful, which one really is the better buy here? And so that's really one of the analogies that I use when somebody is looking at the cost of capital, because the cost of capital, believe it or not, is pretty standard across the industry. Some may be a little higher, some a little lower, but the true cost of capital, and when I'm talking about that, let me be clear, I'm not talking about interest rates. I'm talking about the real dollarized cost of capital, the effective rates, if you will. You'll find that that's pretty standard across the industry. What is different, though, is how quickly do you have to repay whatever money you bought?
Yeah, it's that velocity, the speed.
Exactly. It's the velocity of payback. And
Right.
I think a lot of people simply have been conditioned to pay attention to APRs and interest rates without understanding two things. One, what's the real cost or the dollarized cost of capital? And then two, what am I going to do with this money? If I buy money, am I putting it toward an income opportunity or am I trying to pay bills? But that's for another subject. Yeah. So I want to go ahead. Sorry for the sidebar, but I wanted to really touch on that because I think it's going to dovetail into some of the results that we got from the survey that we conducted here a little bit ago. And so I want to share some of those results because I think really some of these results were that we found were really, really eye-opening. And so, guys, what we did is we recently partnered up and sponsored really a survey for Arkansas Baptist College and Arkansas Baptist College Foundation. And so what we did is we put a 5-question survey out to current government contractors. And this is whether they were service contractors or product contractors, didn't matter. And so we took a survey where we sponsored this survey for the college to collect data for the students there. And it's really for the students to use, I should say, as the foundation is in the process of starting a campaign to raise funds for scholarships for these students. And so it was really an eye-opening set of data that we were able to collect. And so I'm going to share with you, and that's part of what we wanted to do today, is share with you some of the findings that came out of the survey. And Robert, we'll kind of kick back and forth some of the things that may trigger in your mind about.
Yeah, sure.
So what I want to do, if it's okay, I'm going to just go through question number one. And question number one we ask in the survey is, what percentage of your company's total sales are to government agencies? And the choices were 50% or more, 11 to 50%, or 0 to 10%. What's interesting is that the survey came back, and I'm going to pull my screen up here because it was really something that I was really excited about us sharing with our audience here. And so guess what? 55% said that of their total sales, 50% or more of their total sales were to government agencies. And so you got to think about, if 50% or more, and we didn't get into how much more, but it tells me, at least in my mind, Robert, that government contractors are fairly diversified, where they're not only selling to government agencies.
Yeah, I in fact, I was thinking about that the other when you kind of told this to me, because you sent it to contractors. So intuitively, I would have thought that it would be like 80% would come back saying, "Hey, it's all government," and it's not. So right. It's certainly 55%. But that also means that 45% of their business is non-government contracting.
That's exactly right.
And so, so it's kind of like, the woman that we were speaking with earlier, right? I mean, she does commercial and government, because she recognizes that, I need to kind of dovetail and diversify, what I've got coming in with respect to my overall business. And, I thought that was, I think that's interesting, is that it's not wholly reliant upon the government. And when I mean government, I mean federal, state, local, municipal, hospitals, the whole gamut.
Sure. No, absolutely. And so, and to your point, I think it was a really relevant question that we're asking, because, I think as we go along and do these surveys in conjunction with the college, I think that we're going to dig out some really meaningful and relevant information as we go forward, because we're going to push out another survey here shortly. Question 2, what percentage of your company's total sales are from sales of finished goods or commercial products to government agencies? So question 1 had to do with what percentage of your total sales are to government agencies. Now question 2 is, how much or what percentage of your company's total sales are from sales of goods or commercial products? What was interesting about that, the responses for question 2 came out that 55% was 0 to 10% of their sales were products. 27% was 50% or more were products. And then the third place was 16% was 11 to 50%. So of the total, we had 27 plus 16. So we're looking at roughly 44% being product sales. And so what I see from that is that was a pretty even split between the two, but with the biggest portion being almost 30% or 27% saying, 50% or more of their sales are finished goods or commercial products.
Yeah, but it also, the flip side of that, though, is 55% are saying it's 0 to 10.
Yeah.
And so you just said that 50, and again, I think you told me that the total male recipients on this survey was almost 7,000 contractors that you contacted.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you're saying 55% of the respondents, are more than 55%, but of that 55%, more than half of that are selling less than 0 to 10% of finished goods.
That's right.
So that to me is an untapped opportunity.
It absolutely is. And that's why we're going over this, guys, because I think it's important for our viewers, our listeners, to understand that there's big opportunities available in the supply chain if you're positioning your company to participate in that spending that's going on. All right. Number three, third question: when your company wins awards, how likely is your company to need or seek outside financing to fulfill large purchase orders or contracts? Now, the choices were very likely, somewhat likely, or not likely at all. And what's interesting on question three was 69% said not likely. And then we had 16% said somewhat likely, and then 13% said very likely. So when we look at how they go about financing large contracts, whether or not they would even need to, what I see in this is you've got 29%, 39%. Yeah, 29% saying that they were likely to need outside financing. And so what it tells me is, at least in my view, is that either one, these guys are very liquid enough to basically finance their own large opportunities, or two, they're not going after large opportunities bigger than what they afford to finance on their own. And if that's the case, you tell me what you think, Robert, but if that's the case, that by itself means that these small business owners are pulling back on the opportunities that they could go after.
Yeah, I think that's probably it, because we already know based on the survey that it's kind of a smaller portion of their overall business. And, and they're probably like, yeah, you know what, it's kind of a small, we'll go ahead and we'll fill that in, but they can't get any more than X dollar amounts because we're just, we can't really finance that.
That's exactly right. And that's what I'm talking about. And if that's the case, and we'll dig more into that, but if that's the case, what we're gonna, I think, run up against is that's one of the reasons why I think small businesses and especially government contractors stay small, is because they steer clear of contracting opportunities that may be larger than what they believe that they can finance on their own.
Yeah, it's kind of like an absence of oxygen to feed their business, and of course, our financing to pound our own drum is a form of oxygen.
Yeah.
And if we can give these merchants and these small businesses the oxygen to be able to expand, I bet that number could go significantly smaller because they're doing more.
Well, exactly right.
Yeah.
So moving on, question 4, does your company currently have any interest in increasing sales from minority set-aside contract opportunities? Now, this one was great, and the choices were yes or no. And what's really great about this particular one in question 4 is 72% of the respondents said yes. 72%. So what does that mean? Well, that means, we want to go after more opportunities, but we don't want to go after more opportunities that we can't finance. Not sure what that really says. But because we got some limited time here, I do want to move on and finish this. And so I'll come back to that when we wrap up. And question 5 has to do with, if applicable, how does your company currently purchase products such as inventory, materials, equipment, or supplies from its suppliers to fulfill government purchase orders or for the company's internal use? And the choices were: you pay cash up front, you use net 30 credit terms, or you don't make purchases from suppliers at all. And what was interesting about that, and the responses from question 5, was 63% said that they buy these products on net 30 terms from their suppliers. But what I saw from this is that you've got you've got 35% of these folks who don't use credit at all, which means they're using cash, which of course drains their bank account.
Yeah.
And so, so this is kind of one of the things that I wanted us to be sure that we covered, in this week's segment. And so, just in a way of a wrap up, Robert, what are some of the things that we've shared here out of our survey? Do you think would be some takeaways for our listeners?
Think bigger. I mean, quite frankly, it's like, look, the opportunity's out there, and the 7,000 people or the 7,000 contractors, to me, proof evidence that they're not taking advantage of the opportunity, because the data is the data. Numbers don't lie, right? That's and right. If they say they want to do the set aside, but you say you want to do it. It's kind of like arguing with a 6-year-old. Well, you say you want to do it, but you need to actually take those steps. And so maybe what you and I can do, or as well as the partners that we're working with, is allow them and give them that opportunity to be able to go out and capture that set aside.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to do just that, Robert. So anyway, guys, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks so much, as always, for joining us. Make sure you pass along our information. And again, if you found that our information is meaningful and relevant to you, hey, pass it on, because the more people that we can get involved in government contracting to grow their businesses, the better we're all going to do. Until next time, look out for the email. We're going to send you guys emails to let you know we're moving to our new platform here on next week. Robert, thanks so much for your time, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Irv. See you guys.
Right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.